This week on the Baseline Podcast, Josh and I are joined by my brother Jared, where we're going to be talking about the World Cup 2022, which is happening in Qatar in just a few days. We're going to be going through every single group, A through H. We're going to be breaking down every matchup, every team, what we think is going to happen, who's coming out of each group, and then finally, who is going to win it all. And then we're going to finish up with our college football power rankings and Heisman watch lists. All that and so much more coming up on the Baseline Podcast. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Podcast. I'm Ben. That's Josh. And my little bro, Jared, is back with us. He's down there. But he is back hanging out, wearing his USA jerseys because the only reason Jared is on, let's be honest, is because there's a big event coming up that Josh and I combined might have half the knowledge that Jared has. So the World Cup is coming up during Thanksgiving this year. So if you're an American living in America, it's weird because you're used to watching the one football, but then you can watch the other it's just very confusing. But I know over here in Europe, it's starting to become big. You can feel it. Everyone's talking about it, even here in Hungary, where we aren't even in it. But that's besides the point. It is the greatest world event outside the Olympics. It is the biggest sporting culture mixed together with everything else going on. And it's a great time to watch. Even before I really like soccer, you'd always turn it on. Jared, you can ask Jared. We somehow it would still end up on the TV. So, Jared, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you for having me back.
Hey, of course. We told you we would. We kept our word. So that's
Is this this is number 3? This is number 3 now for Jared.
I think it's the third one. So that means
he's now tied
Bryce.
with Bryce for the most appearances by a guest. And if
true.
we get our boy Chris Drew on to talk Ohio State, Michigan, he'll be tied for third. And then I don't know if we're gonna have some Vegas odds on who will get the fourth. But
maybe Jared will come back for hockey time. Maybe we'll bring back
maybe
for some
hockey time, or maybe the United States men's national team will do something, and then we have to bring him back on, out of obligation. Because we're a real sports show and we cover all sports, UFC, football, baseball.
By the way, Josh,
whatever.
I do want to state that one of the maintenance guys at school, like his kids watch our show, and he's Hungarian, and he's like, so when are you going to expand your guys' sports talk show to actual other sports? And I'm like, listen, we cover the major sports happening at the moment. All right. We do our best.
It'd be cool too if we just had the resources and the time to do 2 or 3 episodes a week so that we could maybe be up to date and on all the current stuff. But just so much happens in a week that we just try to like laser focus
Summarize
on a couple large things, and that's all the time we have for. But today we are dedicating most of this episode to World Cup action. Maybe we will, like I said, bring Jared back on to talk as we get down to like the final 16 or whatnot. But right now, we'll be just chatting up with Jared with soccer, and then we'll also get some of his thoughts on our updated real American football college power ranking and Heisman finalists lists. But shall we start with
let's do
A,
it,
gentlemen?
Yeah, let's do it. So Group A, we have Qatar, the host country. So if you don't know, if you've never seen the World Cup, the host country is always in there. So it's kind of just the thing that happens. So Qatar, we'll see what happens with them. But you have Ecuador, who did pretty well in the South American qualifiers. You have Senegal, who is my dark horse, just cat out of the bag right now. And you have Netherlands. So I think, Jared, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of break down this group. We're going to talk about the different teams for all of you that are listening. So if you're watching this and you're like, I don't want to talk about Group A or whatever, you can fast forward to whatever group that we're talking about at the moment. So if you're talking about Group A, Jared, go through each team and what do you think some of the strengths are of these teams, and who do you think is going to really stand out in this group?
Yeah, well, like you said, Ben, before we came on here, you kind of said, some of these groups are going to have teams in that nobody really doesn't really know anything about just because they're on the smaller side. So like a lot of the Asian countries or maybe the Middle Eastern countries, even some of the African countries. But when I look at Group A, I'm looking at Netherlands and Senegal. All right. You got Qatar and Ecuador there. Yeah, Qatar's the host country, but it's Qatar. They don't really have any big names. Same with Ecuador. They don't have any really big, Premier League names or anything like that. So those two teams, for me, they're at the bottom of that table. I see Netherlands and Senegal getting out. And like you, Ben, I think I said this both the other times I was on here when we talked about the World Cup, before we actually got the solidified groups and everything. I think I said Senegal is my dark horse to win the whole thing. or at least get to the semifinals, something like that, to get third place. So Senegal is still my dark horse. Even with injuries that have happened, things like that, other teams that have looked good, Senegal is still my dark horse. I think they really will, whenever they play Netherlands, which I'm not sure exactly which day that is, but whenever they play Netherlands, I think that matchup will determine who wins Group A, and then whoever loses, or if they tie for some reason and they go off goal differential, that'll determine who gets 1 and 2 in that group. So if you look at the Senegal, the reason that they're my dark horse is, one, they have Sadio Mane, one of the fastest players in all of soccer. Plays for Bayern Munich right now. And then I think one of the players to watch for them, actually, besides Sadio Mane, because everybody will be eyes on him for Senegal, is actually their goalkeeper,
That's
Edward.
what I was about to say. I was about to say that too.
I believe if I'm still correct, he is still on Chelsea right now. And whenever he goes in for Chelsea, or is in the goalkeeper spot for Chelsea, he always does good. So I think he is the key factor of them. Now, Sadio Mane, don't get me wrong, he'll be scoring all the goals. But I think the big key factor for them is their goalkeeper play. He has got to play good for them to move on even further in the round of 16. And then Netherlands, I mean, there's really nothing to explain with Netherlands. It's the Netherlands. It's the Dutch. They have Virgil van Dijk. They have some pretty solid goalkeepers. They got some good young forwards, and Cody Gakpo, I believe is his name. They got some really talented young guys, and it's always the Netherlands. They always make it to like the quarterfinals at least. Usually get beat like by Brazil or France or somebody like that. There's nothing really explained with the Netherlands. Even if you don't watch soccer, Netherlands, just know they're always a good country, always tough to play against. So I see Netherlands and Senegal making it at least out of that group. Honestly, it would be a complete shock to me if Qatar, Ecuador even compete to make it to the first or second. But hey, it's the World Cup. Stranger things have happened in World Cups.
Hey, I like that. Josh, why don't you give us your thoughts on the groups and give us your teams? By the way, Josh has been researching for the last 3 days. So unlike me that's playing Candy Crush, I know that Josh is just thinking over there. So if you're looking at him, he's just pondering of what he's going to say.
Yeah, I mean, I saturated my mind with a lot of previews and a lot of I guess expert picks, and I don't think I saw one that didn't have both Netherlands and Senegal. Now, the winner of those all seem to differ, like honestly about a 50-50 split. Some people also, I mean, as you mentioned, Jared, Netherlands, some people have them as a dark horse to win the whole entire thing. You're the first person I found that thinks Senegal could be a dark horse to win the whole thing. Maybe can you give me a little bit of maybe the strengths and weaknesses, maybe some matchups that Netherlands could win, a matchup that maybe Senegal could win if the two were to go at it, in a situation where winner takes the group?
Yeah. Honestly, I think with Senegal, their speed, they have a lot of speed up front. So like I said, Sadio Mane, definitely the key guy. If this matchup when this matchup does happen, I think Senegal would have to, like I said earlier, rely on their defense with their goalkeeper, mainly their goalkeeper, and then that front line that they have. I can't remember the exact the name of some of the other forwards they have, but I've looked into it, and they have some pretty decent speed up there. So I think for them to attack Netherlands with all they have, they would definitely need a lot of speed to get rid of that defense, because their Netherlands defense is what would definitely help them if they play Senegal, because their defense is stacked, is very stacked. I mean, you have the best center back in all of soccer in Virgil van Dijk. However you say it, whatever you say it. He's the best center back in all of soccer. So I mean, he's an absolute monster back there. They have some pretty good wing backs too. So I think for Senegal to win, they would have to really push that defense to the limit and try to get in soccer terms, we call it like the easy goals, where the goalkeeper might come out or something and you just kind of tap it in, or a corner kick goal. Corner kick goals are always clutch to get, especially because that could go 50-50. But I think Senegal have to win the 50-50 balls. And then I think for Senegal to beat Netherlands, or at least tie Netherlands to have a chance of winning the group, I think they would have to have more of the possession than Netherlands, because if Netherlands retains the possession, I think it's game over. I think Netherlands would win at least 1 or 2-0, or 1-0 or 2-1, something like that. I think it'll come down to speed and then the Netherlands defense.
Gotcha, man. Hey, D for Dutch, D for defense, S for
Hey, yeah,
speed, S for
exactly,
Senegal, man. Remember it.
exactly.
So
But Group A, we are unanimous. Netherlands and Senegal are getting out.
yeah, I love it. I know for me, Jared, you touched on it. I was going to talk about Edouard Mendy because
Hmm.
I like that was even before Mane. I was like, this goalkeeper, like you got to realize.
Yeah.
Let me just give you a little hint, to everyone out there. There's been no African team that has ever won the World Cup, and this is the team.
No African team has ever even made the
That's
semifinal.
true. That's true.
So
So basically, what I'm going to say is that the reason why I think Senegal is because one, this is basically Senegal, I believe's last real shot because a lot of these guys are in their 30s,
mhm.
early 30s, mid 30s,
Mhm.
and so I think this really could be the last kind of chance for the Senegal team to hit, a run really. And so
Mhm.
Mendy at goal, I think Sadio Mane is just like he's incredible to watch. And so
Yeah.
I think I actually have Senegal topping the group, and then I have Netherlands finish second. But I will say this about Ecuador: one thing they were able to prove in South America was that they can play defense. I'm not
Yep.
saying they're going to win a game, but I wouldn't be shocked if they pull a draw out or they keep
Oh yeah.
both teams to like a 1-0 loss because that's one thing Ecuador's done. And don't be surprised, people, if we all say this and Qatar comes out and beats somebody, right?
It's
Like
World Cup.
this
It's
is the
World
World
Cup, man.
Cup. It happens. You
Yeah.
never know. So we've kind of pulled those two things. And so that's what we all think. It is going to be a clean sweep across the board for us. It might be just different in places, but
Mhm.
we have the group B, the group everyone's looking at,
The
the
only
group
group
that
anybody in the States cares about.
this
Once
is
a
true.
certain team out of Group B gets eliminated, nobody will care anymore.
And
This is
that drives us
this is
nuts.
very accurate.
So in Group B, if you don't know, it is England, it is Iran, which is kind of controversial right now, but besides the point. And then there's USA and Wales. So you have two teams from the UK. You have America, who was once occupied by England, and you have Iran. Enough said there. So this is kind of a chaos group in some
Yeah.
cases. Some say the U.S. got a great draw because if they make it out, then they have an easier kind of game, but I might disagree with that. So, Jared, this is
Yes.
going to be a group that I think any of these four teams could win it.
Oh,
Honestly, any four teams could win it of this group.
Dude, I came to the same conclusion, man.
And that's the thing. And if there's a shot, and I've seen this stuff out here, that there's a chance that Iran and Wales top the group and England and the USA
yeah.
don't even make it in. So, Jared, my question to you is what are some of the strengths of these teams, weaknesses of these teams, and who do you see coming out on top?
Yeah, well, so after our previous videos where we said there were some other groups that are group of death, I really looked into this and actually, fact, every team in Group B and the very final FIFA World Cup ranking or FIFA rankings before the World Cup, every single team in this group is ranked in the top 20 of the FIFA
Oh
rankings.
my goodness.
So you could honestly say that the US has the group of death because of that, the ranking standards, which sometimes FIFA rankings don't make any sense. We can save that for another time, but so I'm looking at this as I agree with you, Ben. I think any team, which stinks because it's the US, but any team possibly could win this group. Any team could make it out. Like this is the group I think to watch in during at least the group stage of the World Cup. Now, as we look at England, they had some, they were
They haven't got rid of
semifinals.
Southgate, have they? They haven't got rid of that
No.
man yet, have they?
Well, it makes sense though because they were
Hey, Hungary beat them
semifinalists.
4-0. Hey,
They were
Hungary beat them 4-0. I don't want to
That
hear
is
it.
true. That is true. They were semifinalists in the World Cup in 2018. They have a lot of those same players. So I think what you really got to look for in England is Harry Kane. He was the Golden Ball winner of the 2018 World Cup. Dude is an absolute beast up front. Scores goals like crazy. He's one to watch out for. But also, just in general, England is probably the most well-rounded team in this World Cup.
They're the most talented too. I think they have the most
I
talent.
think they're the most talented too. Like in my mind, there is no doubt on paper that England should be at least a top 3 favorite to win the World Cup. Now, we'll get to them eventually, but everybody's saying Brazil, which I understand. But I think England has a real shot at it. And if you just look at their team, I mean, goalkeeper plays kind of iffy with Pickford and Ramsdale. I mean, it's kind of iffy. But then I'm looking at their defense. I mean, they have
They have
Trent
like what?
Alexander
Do they have
Arnold.
what? 40 left backs on their team? 40 right
Something like
backs?
that.
So many
They
right
have
backs.
Trent Alexander Arnold, who, by the way, could have chose the USA, which whatever, it's fine. He wanted to go to England. Brits over there. Sorry if anybody's British watching this. No offense, but and they have Kyle Walker, Luke Shaw, John Stones. I mean, their defense is stacked. And then you go to their midfield. I mean, it's just is
Jared,
loaded with talent.
you did skip over Harry Maguire, which every England fan wants him off the team, by the way. If you look at anything
that's why I
around.
skipped Harry Maguire. He's absolute cheeks. I don't know why Gareth Southgate even brought him up. Declan Rice is and then we get to the midfield. They got Declan Rice, Jordan Henderson. I mean, they got Phil Foden and Mason Mount, two young stud guys. Jude Bellingham, James Madison, again, questionable move. Don't know why he brought him up, whatever. And then you look at their forwards, Jack Grealish, Harry Kane, like I mentioned, Raheem Sterling, Marcus Rashford, Bukayo Saka, don't know how to pronounce his first name. And I mean, you just look at their team. That was just some of their list. I mean, they are
Jared,
stacked.
you're so American right now, the way you butcher names. Like, it's just such an American thing to do.
It's okay. It's okay though. It's totally worth it.
Also, Josh, you all right there? You got cut off guard by Jared's cheeks comment, right?
Just like he just said, they're absolute cheeks. That's hilarious.
I mean, he has been, to be honest. Like every Man United fan knows it.
Yeah,
but I mean, England's just. I honestly, I see England coming out on top in this group. Now, here's the thing with USA, Wales, and Iran. Okay, this is America's group, right? Like, as an American, I want so bad for the US to win, be at the top of this group, win the group, because to prove everybody wrong about this young American team. And then I watched the roster reveal that Craig Burton they did on ESPN2, and there were some choices in my mind as to why
is Stefan not on the team?
Why did you do that? Now, Stefan, hold on. Stefan, I get he's always injury prone. Matt Turner has shown absolute why he should be the absolute number one goalkeeper for us. When he's at Arsenal, he has shutouts. He has 14 shutouts and only 19 caps for the Americans. So I get Matt Turner. I think he should be the number one. I think he's a key player for the U.S. to go far. But then some of these moves, I mean, I'm thinking like Tim Ream, 35-year-old grandpa coming on this team who has no World Cup experience. He's 35. He has no World Cup experience.
He's a white boy.
For real. Why can't Tim Howard be on the team then?
Right? Exactly. But like Tim Ream, I mean, I get it. He's on Fulham. He's in the Premier League. Okay, you bring him up.
Did you say Fulham? Did you say it's Fulham? It's Fulham, not Fulham.
Whatever. That's how you spell it. So let everybody spelling it. But Tim Ream, like it, I think that was a joke. I don't think he should have been. I think like John Brooks, in my opinion, granted, he's probably going with guys who are like in form, which most of these guys are in form. Like Haji Wright, people are kind of harping on Haji Wright. I think that was a good pick as coming off the bench, because Haji Wright has been very in form with his Turkish team. He's got like 9 goals or something like that, and like 9 appearances, somewhere around there. So he's been scoring goals left and right. The other questionable move, Jordan Morris. I mean, I get the whole story where the dude like tore 2 ACLs, finally gets that call up, but Malik Tillman is like so much more talented than Jordan Morris and should have been the guy to bring up in place of him. So the U.S. has definitely had some questionable moves by Greg Berhalter there, but in general, I think Wales is going to be the tough first match for Americans right there. Okay, the Stars and Stripes got a tough match with Wales being their first. I mean, Gareth Bale can't go wrong with Gareth Bale, one of the best in the world. Well, was at one time, and I think USA can pull off the second place in this group. Like you said, it could be anybody coming out of this group. I mean, Iran, Wales, all of them are in top 20. We're all in the top 20. So I have England and USA. Iran's got some studs as well. I mean, Wales, it's Wales. The first World Cup in 64 years. So they have all the momentum, honestly, in this group because of that. But I see USA and England. It's just going to be a really tough ride for the U.S. to get to the round of 16.
Ooh, Josh.
Now, Jared, before I reveal my picks, I think I need a couple things clarified first. So,
Tim Howard again?
Well, not Tim Howard, but England.
By the way, Josh, pause you real quick. Tim Howard, by the way, fun fact, he is Hungarian as well. He's half Hungarian. Fun fact.
Never would have guessed. But England, Jared, they are winless in their last 6 games in all competition, which is their longest losing streak going into a major tournament. How important were those games? Were they trying? Were they at full strength? Or like, what's the explanation for that? Why were they so cold?
Yeah, I honestly, when I saw that, like when I saw all them losing all those games, I was kind of shocked because it is England. Um, Personally, I think I'm pretty sure they were full strength too. Like I'm pretty sure they had at least most of these guys who were going to the World Cup. I think pretty sure most of them were playing in those games. So I don't know. I honestly have no explanation why they have six losses or well winless in 6 games up to the World Cup. I honestly, I don't think Gareth Southgate is a great coach. That's why they haven't
No,
won
he's not.
anything under him. I mean, look at the Euros. There's your perfect example right there. The Euros, and then they lose to Croatia. Granted, Croatia is sometimes a dark horse, but they lose to Croatia in the World Cup in 2018 in the semifinals. So I think Southgate is not a good coach. Like I think they'd be better off with somebody else. Granted, I don't know who, but just somebody else. So I think honestly, their explanation is I think they just played bad. I mean, which is very hurt. It does hurt them going into the World Cup, but I also think that gives them some like motivation to say, hey, those games we did not
Yeah.
play well. I think we need to start this World Cup off with a bang versus Iran, and then they come and play USA on Black Friday. So I mean, there's definitely some options, but I think they honestly did not just play good in those 6 games leading up
And
to the World
Hungary
Cup.
was amazing, and Hungary dominated.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So I
in
did
the
notice
same
that Iran, very
Mhm.
solid defense.
Very
They've made
solid.
it. They have not been able to make it past the group stage in their last 6 appearances, though, in the
Nope.
World Cup. However, lowest goal per game ratio, they allow about 0.6 goals per game. So they play very solid defense. That's going to be a
Yeah.
problem for anybody in this group, like you said. Probably another reason why they're ranked in the top 20. Wales actually has the longest gap. The last time they made the World Cup was 68 years. So maybe a little bit of
Yeah.
motivation for them. Like, hey, we're finally back. Let's make some noise. United States, though, guys, they've made a ton of overhaul. I think they're the youngest roster, and there's also only, I
Yep.
think, 3 guys
Yeah.
from that 2018 team that failed to make it. But even despite maybe the questionable roster picks, I think England being cold, Iran struggling to score, could really make this thing wide open. And I'm going to go ahead and say United States wins because we've never lost to England in World Cup play, and we've never
That is
lost to
true.
England in a war. We just own them. That's what we
That's
do
right.
in the United States.
That's right.
United
USA,
States,
baby.
United
USA.
States is winning
USA.
Group B. I'll go ahead though. Even with England going on a cold streak, I think maybe they put some things together. All the Harrys, what a British name that is, are going to go ahead and do enough to get past Wales and Iran. So United States is winning. England second.
Okay.
I'm just saying, Josh, that was the greatest thing. Hey, we beat him in soccer. We beat him in wars.
Yeah, come on now. Never
Hey,
lost to him in World Cup.
If they
know
ever
what?
add an
Let's
NFL
start
team,
now.
we'll probably beat them in that too.
Amen.
Hey, you know what? I'll say this. I'm with both of you, but I actually have a second team that's going to make it. I have the USA win the group. I think I agree with Josh. I think seeing how England's played the last few games and seeing the frustration in the locker room at times, I think USA capitalizes. I think I think they're going to win out. I don't think USA will lose in this first group. Okay. The second team I have is Wales. I believe Wales is a team. This is my thing. England is just, even their fan base is like not like excited. Like they're excited, but they're not really pumped up, right? And I think Wales, with they haven't been there in so long. You have so many of these guys that you don't really hear about, but they just put it together and they win. And I think Wales finishes second. I think England, I think it's going to come down to like a last game type thing, but I think Wales will finish second. And there is your Group B. Ben, of course, is different because I always just seem to have to be, but that is your Group B. We'll get back to the USA at the end of these group talks. But Jared, Group C is a very interesting group.
It is.
Because you have Lionel Messi, obviously, in Argentina, his last World Cup.
Yep.
You have, by the way, FIFA, EA FIFA, the video game, predicted Argentina to win it all. And you have Saudi Arabia, who is a sneaky team. I think people don't realize. We'll talk about that. You have Mexico, who's always a very good team in international play. And then you have Poland, who a lot of people don't realize have a very good up front. And they could be very good. So my question for you, Jared, is again, what do you see in these groups? Do you see any strengths out of these teams? And who do you think's coming out on top and who's finishing second?
Yeah. Well,
I know you're biased on this.
Oh, I am absolutely biased on this. For me, Argentina easily winning all 3 games. Messi is going to unload in this World Cup. He wants to prove everybody that he is the best player to ever play soccer.
Oh my goodness.
Even better than Pele. I know Pele fans are going to be offended, but Messi is the best player to ever play this game. He's about to the dude is 35.
Pushkash shared.
No, Messi. The dude is 35 and has like a combined 23 in play with 23 goals for PSG, and he's 35. I mean, this guy is insane.
How old is he, Jared? How old is he?
35.
How old?
And by the way, I think even though he says it's his last World Cup, hey, at 39 years old, anything can happen. But since this is most likely his last World Cup,
yes, your colonoscopy can happen at 39.
Argentina is winning this group 3 straight games. They're winning all the games, at least 2-0. I know it is biased, but Lionel Messi is my favorite player of all time. And if you just look at their team, they are stacked from top to bottom. Some could say they might even have more talent. Actually, I think they do have a little bit more talent than England. They have a better goalkeeper, in my opinion, and Emiliano Martinez. They have really good backline. Their backline, I wouldn't say it's really good.
That's probably their weakest part. That's probably their weakest part of their team.
Their midfield and forwards are unreal. I mean, their front line is going to be Messi, Demiria, and Paulo Dybala. So that is their front 3. And then their midfield, my prediction for their starters is probably going to be maybe Paredes, probably. I wouldn't be surprised if they start Martinez down there in the midfield at first. And then they also have some other really good players in that midfield that can come off the bench. So I think Argentina just right away sweeps it. Boom, 9 points. They're advancing. As it comes to the second team, Saudi Arabia is dangerous. El Tri, Mexico, dangerous team always.
They always choke at it sometimes, though.
The one player you got to look for Mexico, though, is the legend at goalkeeper. He only comes out.
Ochoa.
He only comes out every 4 years for every World Cup that he's been in for the past 5 World Cups. Guillermo Ochoa. Okay, I mean, this dude is like World Cup.
He's
talent.
old
like
too.
He's only for World Cup. Like this, he'll save everything. Apparently, you try to shoot it. Nope, he's saving everything. All right, he's like the Tim Howard for Mexico. Now,
that's Josh's.
That's why I said it. So Guillermo Ochoa is definitely somebody to watch for Mexico, but I honestly think Poland is going to be the second team to advance. Now, I don't think they will. I think there's a chance they actually tie Mexico. Saudi Arabia might be able to get a tie or a win out of this group. But I think Poland at least wins 2 of their games, loses to Argentina. But I mean, Lewandowski, he can't go wrong. Best
scorer right now in soccer.
Yep. They have a really good goalkeeper too. They have several good defenders, midfielders.
They're young too. They're pretty young guys too.
So I think Argentina and Poland are the 2 that make it out.
Oh, interesting. Josh, what's your thoughts?
I mean, Argentina seems like the clear heavy favorite here with the star power they got with guys like Messi. But second place is what's interesting. Like I saw earlier with the 50-50 split, it seemed like with who was going to win Senegal or Netherlands in Group A. The second team getting out of here looks kind of like a toss-up too between Mexico and Poland. But I do know that Mexico has made it past the group stage in the last 7 World Cups. So perhaps they have the pedigree and the experience. So I'll ask you, Jared. Is there maybe a matchup that Poland can take advantage of? Any shot you'd give them to be that second team?
I honestly, like I was saying, and like how Ben said, that front line that they have. I mean, they have Lewandowski, Piatek coming off the bench. I don't even know how to say that guy's first name. His last name is Milik, and then their midfield giving it to that forwards. But I think for them to at least get past Mexico whenever they meet, because Argentina, like I said, they're sweeping it. Saudi Arabia, not as big of a threat. But to get past Mexico, I really think it comes down to just one person, and that is Robert Lewandowski. If he scores 1 goal against Mexico, just 1 goal, and it has to be, I think, an early goal, put Mexico in kind of in the hole there. And if he scores, because if you've seen Lewandowski play at all, even for Barcelona, any leagues, once he scores, he kind of gets on a roll. He just keeps scoring. So I think Lewandowski's got to score at least 1 goal early on versus Mexico. And if it comes to that point, I think from then on, Mexico's going to be in trouble, and Poland is quickly going to kind of put the pressure on Mexico. And then obviously it always ends up coming down to goalkeeper play in soccer.
They both have good goalkeepers too.
Yeah, they both have good goalkeepers. So I think it just comes down to the one goal for Lewandowski, and then kind of put the pressure on Mexico and shoot it from there.
Mexico's got some good wins too. They beat Germany 1-0 2018. They had a scoreless draw with Brazil in 2014. 2-0 win over France in 2010. So I do like the Mexicans' pedigree. I'm gonna go with Argentina and Mexico out of this one.
Oh, Josh went different.
As for the Saudis, they can worry about their golf tour because they ain't getting anywhere in this World Cup.
There you go.
I love
Back
Josh's
to the live,
comments.
baby.
Hey, I love it. For Ben here, I've decided, I agree with Jared and everything he said on Mexico and Poland. And actually, I like Szczesny, their goalkeeper for Poland. I mean, he's very underrated, I think, in the world stage. I think people just don't talk about him, and he's very good.
Yeah.
They also have a very young center back named Jan Bednarek, who's 26. He's young. They have a young attacking midfielder named Peter Zielinski, also a young guy. A lot of these young guys with these veteran guys that I think could play a factor. And I'm going to have to go with Jared. I just think I think Poland's attacking is too much for, I think, Mexico to handle full 90 minutes. I do think it's going to be close, but I do believe that Argentina is going to run away with it. And then I think it's going to be down to who gets the stops and which goalkeeper shows up. If Ochoa shows up from 10 years ago, Mexico wins this. But if he's kind of the older version of him, then we'll see what happens. But I believe that Poland will be. So my two teams are Argentina and Poland.
All right.
That is Group C. Group D is a good group. It's an interesting group. It's weird because you look at Group D and you're like, well, France should run away with it. But I would just say
because Denmark's beaten in the last few times they faced.
That's what I'm saying. So in Group D, you have French, the France. You have the Aussies, Aussie. You have the Denmark, the Danes.
Come on now.
Sorry, the Danes, the Vikings.
Cheese Danish and breakfast.
And then you have the Tunisians from Tunisia, who honestly I didn't know where that was until I looked on a map a couple of days ago. So yeah, I know it's in Africa. I just didn't know where in Africa. So you have these four teams. Jared, give us your take. Do you think there'll be any surprise in here, or do you think it's pretty much France and then we'll see what happens? What do you think?
So here's the thing. Last time I checked, I think France had a couple injuries.
Mm-hmm.
I think Pogba's hurt.
Yeah, I think he was
hurt. I don't believe
Pogba's
even in the World Cup this year.
Which is interesting.
Granted, he hasn't been really good for anybody lately, so that kind of makes sense that they didn't even call him up. They have Hugo Lloris still. So
who seems like he's been there for years.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's been there for like 50 years. They have solid defenders as always.
Mbappe.
Raphael Varane, Upamecano, Jules Koundé, Ibrahima Konate. Theo Hernandez. They have really good, solid defenders. Midfield.
They have both Hernandez brothers, I think, right?
Yep, solid midfielders in Camavinga from.
He's so good, young guy
from Real Madrid. Fofana, Guendouzi, Rabiot. Chumani, who's a new young guy.
But they don't have Conte's not playing this year because I believe he's injured.
Conte's also injured. So, and then obviously Kylian Mbappe, you can't go wrong with him. Best player in the world. So-called. You could debate. Anyways, so they have very solid team all around. However, as you mentioned, Denmark has beaten them.
Good job, Josh.
The past two times they played. So, here is my shock of the World Cup, right?
Will it be a third time?
Denmark, because they are the Danes, the great Viking background they have, because they are the Danes, and because they have Christian Eriksen, who came off that like heart attack or whatever he had during a game, and then out of nowhere, it does amazing for Brentford and then signs for Man United, is a great leader. So, and it's Denmark. For some reason, they always play good in the World Cup. So I am going to have the Danes not winning against France, but tying France. And then based on goal differential, I think Denmark somehow ends up on top of this group. And then France hits second. Now, like I said, this is a complete shot in the dark. This is probably not even going to happen because it is France. They are literally insane. Based on the other teams, Australia, sorry, Aussie, sorry, mate, it ain't going nowhere for the you.
Aussie.
Australia, I just don't think they have a chance. Tunisia, sorry, Africa, that's the one team that probably is not even going to come close to advancing. I just don't think their talent is there. If you look at Tunisia's roster, they don't really have anybody well known necessarily from there. Same with Australia. I mean, you got a couple guys, but all the guys they know are like retired and old. So I think it comes down to France and Denmark, and that game is going to be the big toss up as to who advances and who gets second.
Hey,
Yeah.
I love it.
I was reading, I think France actually would have been the Vegas favorite to win the whole World Cup if they were playing it in June like normal. But then those losses to Denmark changed a couple things. But, you know, I would imagine beating the same team 3 times in a row would be a challenge. So I'll go ahead and go with the popular pick, at least for the group of France, and then I'll have Denmark come in second. Australia has been to, like, I think 5 straight World Cups, but their last win and one came in 2010. So it's going to be tough for them. And I think Tunisia might be able to steal one. They almost stole one from England in 2018.
That is true. Yeah.
So maybe they can snag maybe one win in this group, not really go anywhere, but I'll go with France winning it and Denmark right behind them.
I would have to agree. I think I have to agree with Josh, Jared. I'm with you. I think Denmark could do something, but I just think France, you can't I feel like 3 times it's a hard thing to do. And I think it's going to be France, then Denmark. And then I'm going to have a surprise when I have Tunisia finishing 3rd and 4th be Australia.
Oh, wow.
I'm sorry. I looked at the Australian team and I'm like, you have a lot of old guys. And when you have a lot of old guys in soccer, that doesn't always pan out great. So just ask the United States.
Yeah.
That is Group D. I think that was the easiest group we've done so far.
I think so. Group E, though, man. That's going to be a challenge because this was one that everyone thought could be a group of death, too.
Yes. This is interesting because we have, and if you don't know, if you're watching, you'll be able to hear us talk about it, or if you're listening too, I guess. Group E, we have Spain, we have Costa Rica. Just keep that name there for a second, and
Los
then you
Ticos,
have
baby,
and then you have Germany, and then you have Japan. By the way, Germany, Hungary also beat Germany. Just want to point that out. You have Japan to finish out the group. And Jared, I think you can look at this group, and just like the Group B, that I think any of these 4 teams could finish in the top 2.
Absolutely.
So, Jared, does Spain or Germany both get out, or do neither of them get out? That's the question.
Here's the thing. If I remember right from my memory all the way back in 2018, if I remember right, Germany did not make it out of the group stage.
That is true, yes.
Yeah.
Neither did Spain, right?
I believe it was that one or 2014, one of the two. It was one of those two.
Well, one of the two, yes. Spain didn't make it out either. So for some reason, Germany and Spain are usually inconsistent with these World Cups. Here's the thing. You also have Japan, who's very consistent in World Cups. Almost always
too.
They're very hot.
Almost always make it to the group stage, out of the group stage into the knockout round. And then you have Costa Rica, who
best
always
goalkeeper
shocks
right now,
the world and upsets the one team that nobody thinks will upset. So this is the most challenging group, I think, for me to pick because of these 4 teams. Like you said, I think this is even harder to choose from than Group B because I think it's more of a toss-up for any of these 4 teams to make it out. So with that being said, if we look at the rosters, so if you look at the rosters first, okay, Costa Rica, the only really big name they have is Keylor Navas, their goalkeeper, which everybody knows. For Costa Rica to move on, they have to have him playing at his top level, almost a shutout in probably every game for them to move on. Then you look at Germany. Why do I need to even say anything? It's Germany. Japan, again, don't really need to say anything just because it is Japan. They're a very consistent World Cup team. Not necessarily that they have huge amounts of talent. It's just they're all gelled together very well, and it's Japan. The Japanese, for some reason, go crazy in the World Cup. And then you have Spain. Again, why should I have to say
young
anything?
guys.
It's the Spain with a lot of very, very, very young talented players. So here is my pick for this group. I am going to have, because Germany did not make it out of 2018, they're going to go on a revenge
and
tour.
struggled in Euros too, though.
I think, yes, and the Euros. I think Germany wins this group. Now,
don't they have the youngest guy though too? They have Makoko, who's the youngest player, I think, in the tournament.
Yes, indeed. He's a beast too.
He's gonna be
so Germany wins this group. However, in second place, I am going another shot out this. I am putting Japan in second place.
Oh,
It might not be a huge shot, but it's because Japan, if you look at the past at least maybe probably three World Cups, so since 2010, they usually at least contest with the people in their group or make it out of the group stage into the knockout round. Literally, Japan is one of the most consistent teams I've watched in the World Cup. I almost always see them in a World Cup, and they almost always make it out of the group stage. So I'm going with Germany winning. Japan, I know some people can be like, oh, but the Espanols, Spain, they have such a talented core. They do. However, I think it's because of how young Spain is that is going to hurt them in the experience department. Kind of like the U.S. I think that might be U.S.'s disadvantage as well. We can get it later, but Spain, that young talent, it's going to hurt because they don't have any of that World Cup experience, even though they are very talented. So I'm going dark horse kind of Japan making out of that group right behind Germany.
I'm right with you, Jared. I like the
Yeah.
revenge tour path for Germany, and I mean Japan. They've only lost 2 of their last 13 matches. They've been hot.
Exactly.
They've been consistent, like you said. So I'm rolling with the same situation right there. Spain. Some people might say, well, why doesn't inexperience hurt the United States? I think this group's a lot more tough to get out of. I think that the United States group is, I don't want to say weak enough that that's not going to be an issue, but this one is just like there's a lot to deal with, and Spain might be like maybe one World Cup out from really being able to do something though.
Yeah, and before Ben goes, I actually want to say, I also kind of a long shot here at saying this, but I am having Costa Rica tie Spain, and they're going to be pretty much tied, quote unquote, in third for the group.
interesting. I am going to go with Japan finishing second. I will just say that to start with. I think Japan, I agree with you guys. Japan is just that team. It's like, it's like that team you watch like every year in like, the NBA, MLB or whatever. You're just like, how are they always in the running for the playoffs? It's like, just, how does this always happen? Right. And I think Japan is that way, right? Like, I feel like they're going to get to, it's kind of like, Notre Dame. They're going to get to the final stage, but then they're going to choke and they're not going to finish it out. All right. That's what Japan's like.
Too. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Bengals didn't win it last year. That's all I got to say. Anyways, moving on. So Japan finished second. I actually have Spain finishing first.
Wow.
I've watched Germany over the last few games, especially since I'm living here in Europe, and I'm seeing the highlights and I'm watching them, and the way they lost to Hungary, and it's like Hungary is a good team. They're not great. They're talented, but that's a team that Germany should be handling, both in the Euros and then outside of the Euros as well. So for me, I just think Spain has a lot of young talent, and I'm a believer in young talent. I think the only way in order for you to get experience is by playing. And I think they have old enough guys to keep them settled, but then yet to have these young guys that can just go and play and have fun. So for me, I have Spain finishing first, and then 2 would be Japan, and 3rd would be Germany. So again, it could be a toss up, but that's what my gut feeling is in that group. Now, Josh, Jared, we have Group F, which
kind of interesting.
If you're an American fan, this is the other group you're kind of cheering for. Canada, wow, Canada to our north. Obviously, we saw how dominant Canada was. We'll get to that in a second. In Group F, you have Belgium, always in the World Cup, right? You have Canada, you have Morocco. Think about them for a second. And then you have the classic Croatia, who somehow Croatia always tends to show up and be amazing in the World Cup
every year.
So, Jared, in Group F, we know Belgium's getting out of this group. I think we can agree on that, possibly. But my question is, where do you see Canada? Where do you see Croatia, Morocco? Are these teams going to be able to bring something to compete?
Okay, here's what I'm saying. Belgium, for some reason, for literally the longest time, I mean, probably since Euro 2020s or when it was supposed to happen, they were ranked number 1 in the world in the FIFA rankings, and I had no idea why, because on paper, this team might be good, but from what I saw from the Euros, and then kind of during the qualifiers a little bit, Belgium does not look like a top 5 team in the world. Now, with that being said, they have Kevin De Bruyne, absolute monster. He was a monster in the 2018 World Cup and 2014 World Cup. Dude should carry him the whole way, I'm guessing. Lukaku's had some injuries, so he's kind of on the edge for me. Thibaut, I don't know how to say his first name, but Courtois, their goalkeeper,
Courtois is good.
he won the best goalkeeper in the 2018 World Cup. So here's the other thing about the other 3 teams in this group. All of them could be dark horses in this World Cup. So you're looking at Canada, right? Everybody's saying,
Dominated.
oh, Canada, yeah, they dominated the CONCACAF World Cup qualifiers, and they did. They dominated as they should have. They're a very talented team. They have some very talented guys. They have Alphonso Davies, quote unquote, could be a top 5, probably top 3 left back in the world. Can also play up front. They have Jonathan David, a really good young striker. Midfield is a little weak, but they do have some good young guys in there, like Jonathan Osorio. They have up front. They also have Tejan Buchanan. Canada could be a dark horse. And then you look at Croatia. Last World Cup 2018, they were a dark horse. They made it to the finals. They almost beat France. They should have honestly beat France in the finals of the World Cup. So that's a dark horse. They have a really good talented. I mean, they have the absolute iconic man in Luka Modric. Okay. Ivan Perisic. I mean, if you look at their roster, talented, usually decently talented from top to bottom. And then Morocco, kind of a dark horse for Africa as well, because they have some decent young guys. They have Hakimi. I believe he plays for PSG right now. I think he's their left back. Hakim Ziyech. He plays for Chelsea, I believe, at least last time I checked. They have some other talented guys. I'm not going to try to say their names because I'm just going to butcher them because it's Morocco. But here's the thing. This is the group where I am actually going crazy in who comes out of this group. Because I just want this to happen in this group. Because honestly,
he's taking Morocco and Canada.
I do not like the Belgians. No offense to like Belgian people. I just don't like Belgium, like the soccer team Belgium.
And
like,
we're banned.
They're terrible. I do not. They're overrated every time. Okay, here's who's making it out of this group. It's not Morocco. It is going to be Croatia on top, Canada in second. Because if I remember right, this is Canada's. I don't want to say,
I believe,
second ever World Cup, and the first time they made it since a long time ago. So Canada, kind of like Wales, is going to be that like push, like, hey, we need to make a name for ourselves. We're finally in a World Cup again. So Croatia and Canada, baby, let's go.
Shoot, man.
Hey, Josh, he doesn't like the Belgians.
Oh, man, no more waffles for Jared. But
apparently not. No,
man, dude. When I was looking at this one, it just kind of seemed like Belgium and then a crapshoot. I am not smart enough in soccer to know why Belgium won't get out of this, so I'm just gonna stick with them as the safe pick. But
good
out
pick,
of these other 3, man, I think Croatia, maybe the little experience that they have, they seem to be a reoccurring appearance or make a reoccurring appearance in this tournament. I'll go with them. That seems a little bit safe. Nothing bold in that group, unfortunately, but that's what I'm going with.
Hey, it's solid because Josh, I'm going with Belgium. Like I just can't go against De Bruyne. I can't go against Courtois. Like I think Belgium's that team. Like they might not be great, but they're always going to be solid. I think Belgium comes out of this group, and I'm actually going to go with Jared. Man, I want to say Croatia, but the way Canada played in qualifiers, the way they've just had this momentum, it's like Canada, no one believes in them. Yeah. I'm going to have an upset. I'm going to say Canada gets out of the group and Croatia does not get out of this group. I think Croatia is starting to hit that they're getting too old peak. I'm not saying they are, but I'm just saying in general, I feel like they're getting up there. So Belgium and Canada for me will get out of this group in Group F. So that is Group F. Now we're on to probably one of my biggest dark horses in the whole tournament, more than even Senegal.
I know who you're saying.
Group G. And I'm not going to say who my dark horse is. But all I'm going to say is it's going to last. Yes, Josh, I know you wanted to comment.
Yeah, I did, because I was like, man, this was the easiest one for me to pick. So the fact that you're saying dark horse, I'm like, which one is he leaving out?
So
like I think you kind of need to go ahead and say that. Like, let's wait for Jared's analysis at the end. I need to know who you're leaving out.
Okay, I'll just say this. My dark horse to win the whole thing is Serbia, and I'm just going to leave it at that. I'll get to it in the end. So, Jared, go ahead and do your thing.
All right. Well, here's the thing. I think there's another dark horse that you did not mention that can make it out.
Poor Josh.
I thought I knew it, dude. I don't know anything.
See, I think it's Cameroon.
Oh,
They're
okay.
an African nation.
I
who's
remember
very-
you talking about Cameroon the
Yeah,
last time we had you on.
who is very consistent in a World Cup. They always seem to be in a World Cup. Now, if you look at Group G, you have they are the World Cup favorite right now, from what I've seen from the betting in Las Vegas to everybody, analysts I've ever seen. Everybody's saying Brazil's going to win the World Cup, which I think is a very, very logical pick to win the World Cup. So they're making it out of this top. They're at the top of this group. Now you look at the other three. Ben, you said Serbia, which kind of questioning. Okay.
No, I'll go. No, I'll go in a second. No, I'll go with it in a second. I'll tell you why.
All right. But I look at Cameroon, and why I like Cameroon, goalkeeper play, man. It is literally sometimes the World Cup, it all comes down to all goalkeeper play. They have Andre Onana. All right. He is a monster back there in the keeper spot. He is very good. Now, you look at their defense, they have some decent defense, not really anybody who's known. They got some decent guys up front. Again, decent guys not really known. They have Vikambi. I believe he's in the French league. They have Choupo Moting, who's actually like kind of beasting it up for I believe it is Bayern Munich right now. So he's kind of a player to look out for. You have George's Kevin Nkudu. You have some other players. I'm also not going to try to say their names, so I don't want to butcher them like I already have. So Cameroon, I think, is another dark horse. Switzerland, I think they could actually.
They're the of this group.
They're not bad though. Like this group, whoever finishes second, it's going to be a close race. Like it's not going to be a complete blowaway for second place. First place, I think Brazil wins all three of their games. Second place, Switzerland looks very, very talented. You know, Brian Bolo, Ruben Vargas. They have Shaqiri, Granit Xhaka. Jan Sommer is one of their goalkeepers, probably their number one. So as much as I want to say there's a possibility of 3 African teams getting into the round of 16. As much as I want to pick Cameroon here, after looking at this roster and the talent that are in each of these rosters, I'd have to say Brazil is number 1 and Switzerland is number 2 in a very close race for that second place.
Interesting, Josh. Now that you've heard both of we have dark horses.
Well, Brazil and Switzerland were the 2 that I was going to pick. Brazil seemed like the easiest one, like a lock with how heavily they're favored to win the whole entire thing. So it's like, okay, easy win right here, easy pick with dudes like Neymar on that team, all the talent in the world. But yeah, that second one, man. I mean, Cameroon's got some freaky athletes like guys like Joel Embiid, and I'm pretty sure Joel has said he'd be playing pro soccer if not basketball.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly.
Too bad he couldn't suit up for this team though. But I'm gonna go ahead and stick with my initial pick of Switzerland to be the second team to get out.
Well,
I think Switzerland could also be a dark horse, kind of in that round of 16.
Jared, you have like 40 dark horses, Jared. That's not fair.
It's the World Cup. Dark horses happen. It's okay.
I will say this. So, Jared, I'm going to go into detail here. So, I think Brazil wins this group. I'm not doubting that. This is why I said Serbia, right? If you look at their front line, they have Dusan Vlahovic, who, if you don't know who he is, you are crazy to think about, because watch this man play. He's 6'5". He is a mammoth of a human being, right? An amazing up front. They also have I'm going to butcher this name, Milinkovic Savic, who is a very good midfielder. Yep. His brother is a goalkeeper for the team as well. You also have Mitrovic. You have Dusan Tadic, who is also like one of the best. Like their front, Luka Jovic, their forwards are unreal. And I think they might not like they're a defensive tactic, but I feel like they're a team that could steal points against Cameroon and Switzerland. And I just feel like they're going to be able to come out in second, mainly because of that attack. I don't know if they're going to be able to sustain that past the group stage, but I do believe this is a dark horse that if they get the defense to just stop people, this offense can do some damage. So that's why I have Serbia coming second in this group. Yeah. So that is why Ben Bowden is going against the grain and thinks that this is a dark horse. I could be completely wrong, which is probably true.
It's a World Cup. Anything happens.
Oh yeah, for sure. So we have the final group, Josh. You've made it, Josh. You've made it this far.
We've made it to the end, and hopefully all of our listeners have too, and they haven't fast forwarded to the college football discussion yet.
That is true. We have in Group H, we have the very controversial Portugal right now due to multiple reasons, and we have Ghana, and we have Uruguay, and then we have Korea Republic or South Korea. It's an interesting group. Honestly, you look at this group, and I could go again. all 4 of these teams, any of them could qualify.
Hmm.
And I know we all want to see a Portugal-Argentina matchup,
Absolutely.
but I'll be honest. I'm just going to say now, we'll get to my picks. I don't know if they'll get out of this group. Jared, what do you think about this group and who's coming out?
Yeah. So Group H, very interesting group. Ghana, another African team that is talented
Very
enough
good.
to get to the round of 16. I mean, the African nations are showing out here in the World Cup with the teams they have put through. I mean, if you look at the Ghana, they have Inaki Williams, who actually his brother Nico is playing for Spain. So
Interesting.
he actually chose Spain over Ghana, which is funny. Didn't want to play with his brother, apparently. Goalkeeper play, I don't believe it's very good. Looking at these names, I haven't heard of any other good goalkeepers.
Is Onana not playing? not playing?
Onana's for Cameroon, Ben.
Oh, that's right. Cameroon. Sorry.
They have a couple brothers playing in Andre Ayew and Jordan Ayew, which, if I remember right, they are related to who was it? They're related to a famous soccer player. I believe it was Pele. Don't get me wrong on that. I could be wrong, but I believe it is Pele. He's like their grandfather or something. I don't know. But they have some decent players to make it out. You look at Portugal, and I think everybody, for viewership of that FIFA World Cup final, everybody wants it to be Portugal, Argentina, Ronaldo and Messi vying one last ride, and each of them could be their first World Cup ever winning it. But I gotta agree with you, Ben. Portugal's kind of iffy. I mean, last time US played them in, what was it, 2014? We tied them and almost beat them. So they're kind of an iffy team when it comes to the World Cup play. South Korea, the one guy,
consistent.
The only guy you need to look out for South Korea is Son Heung-min.
But he's injured. I know he was injured though.
He is, but he plays for Tottenham Spurs over there in England.
Not Tottenham. Tottenham.
Yeah, that's what I said. And he is an absolute beast. He actually got a share of the golden ball from the Premier League last year. So he's a very good goal scorer. So I think South Korea, that could be South Korea's ledge to get out of this. And then Uruguay, I mean, Luis Suarez, Mr. Biter, always bites in the World Cup. They have Darwin Nunez up front with Suarez, Maximiliano Gomez, Edison Cavani. That front core is loaded. They have a really good defender in Ronald Araujo from Barcelona. Diego Godin, very popular name. Jose Maria Jimenez. They have Sebastian Sosa. Fernando Muslera is their goalkeeper. So Uruguay is a very talented, I think, an underdog. Like, I think a lot of people, they're a very underrated team, I think. Uruguay is, talent-wise at least. But out of this group, just because I really want a Portugal-Argentina final, I'm having Portugal get out of this group. And then I am going to choose. I see this was a hard pick for me because I really wanted Uruguay because of their talent to get out of this group. But I can just not support a biter in a World Cup game. So I do not want Luis Suarez to get back in the round of 16 and bite another person. So I think I'm going to have to, I had to choose, honestly, Ghana and Portugal, just because I do want another African nation in the round of 16, give Africa a little bit more of a chance to make the semifinals for all the African listeners we have, because I think Ghana can be another African nation that could make it at least to the round of 16. So I'm going to have Portugal and Ghana making it out of this group.
Ooh,
Portugal on top.
Josh, who you got?
Give me Portugal. I like the potential Ronaldo Messi championship down the line. Plus, I think there's just other talented players on Portugal whose names I don't know, but the internet told me they're talented. So indeed, Portugal winning. Second place, I'm going to go with Uruguay for no other reason other than the fact that they're South American and those teams tend to do pretty good in soccer. So
that's true.
I don't really have any other logic behind that. But if there's a dude that bites, man, let's hope that they don't. But
and I'm going to go with, even though I said I didn't know if Portugal was going to get through, I believe that Uruguay is actually, I think Uruguay could top the group. So I got Uruguay and then I have Portugal second. I wanted to say Korea. It's something about Korea. Like, they're always happy, right? Like, I teach a lot of Koreans at school, and I know they're really excited for Korea being there. But I think Ghana is going to be better than them, actually. So I think it's going to be Uruguay, Portugal, and Ghana. Now, as we that is our Group H. That is all the groups we've talked about here in just a short minutes. I just want to give Jared to give a few recaps. But before we get to the U.S., let's go around here and just quickly give us your two teams that will be in the final and who will win it. I'm going to have Josh, you go first, and then I'll go and we'll have Jared finish up. So, Josh,
I don't want to pick two teams that can't face each other. So, A, B, C, and D is on one side of the bracket. E, F, G, H on the other side. Okay, so I will not pick two teams from the same side. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's see. From the A, B, C, D side, man. That's a tough one, man. I feel like that could be like Argentina or France.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go Argentina. EFGH, I'm going to go Brazil, and we got a Brazil-Argentina final.
Ooh, South American final.
Interesting. Yeah. Oh, boy.
It could be fun to watch.
It would be, yes.
I was struggling on this, to be honest.
It's tough, dude. Especially when you don't know anything about soccer.
That's true. EFGH, I was down between Brazil and Belgium. I think that will end up being the matchup before. So I'm actually going to go with Brazil in the final on the EFGH. Then the top group, I was just like, I don't know. I really don't. But I'm actually. So this is the thing. I do believe Senegal is going to make it to the semifinals. I believe they will make it to the semifinals, which will give that, African nations. But I struggle. So I believe semifinals would be what, Jared? Would it be the winner of AB would face the winner of CD? Is that correct? Is that how it usually works?
Yeah, I mean, it would work like that. So So whoever wins out of because you got to think there's the round of 16 quarterfinals.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So the winners of the AB matchups would then face the winners of the CD matchups.
CDs, yeah.
Yeah,
and
okay.
Then winners over those.
So I'm going to say it's going to be I'm going to go Netherlands versus Brazil for the final. Netherlands versus Brazil, and my winner will be Brazil.
Brazil.
Okay. Jared, who do you got in that final?
Here's the thing. As an American soccer fan, there is so much I want just the American men's national team to finally make a World Cup final. However, I think that's going to happen in 2026 because it's going to be here in the U.S. and we will have so much support for it. Literally, I do think it will probably be the most sold out World Cup of all time when it comes here in 2026. Plus, all these guys are going to be a lot older. So as much as I want the U.S.
So that means that's when you're going to take Josh to the soccer game. So you and Josh will go out and watch soccer games together.
Where are they in the United States? Are they playing those games?
It's all over the place.
Oh yeah, it's all over the place. Yeah, and
weren't they talking about either Columbus or Cincinnati hosting one?
Yeah, I don't think Cincinnati.
No, Nashville got it. Nashville got it. Not Cincinnati.
Oh yeah, that's right, Nashville. Yeah.
Nashville.
So as much as I want America to make a World Cup final, it does not happen in this World Cup. As much as I would love, if that does happen, by the way, I will be going crazy. But with that being said, Argentina's in the finals for me. That is the one solid team I'm picking to be in the finals because Messi needs his final World Cup. Now, as it comes for, I believe they're in the A, B, and C, D area. So everybody's saying Brazil's making the final. However, as cool as a South American final would be, just for the viewership of a World Cup, I want to see Portugal, Argentina in that final World Cup.
Oh boy, this is not biased at all.
Because it is biased, and I don't care because I want it to happen because it should happen because
Josh, he just wants it to happen.
It's how it should work because it's Ronaldo and Messi's last World Cup, and it should be Argentina, Portugal in the finals. With Argentina winning it all because Messi solidifying his reign as the greatest player of all time.
Can't you love when I put this on a graphic, Josh, when everyone's going to bash us because we have Argentina versus Portugal in the final? One of us does.
Put on that graphic in quotes, because I want it.
Because I want it.
Exactly. Because I want it. And they will listen to me.
Yeah,
of course they will.
I mean, that's what I want too. I want a Ronaldo Messi final too, but
And now the question is, so we got all this. So Josh, you went with, who was your champion? Brazil, correct?
Brazil defeating Argentina.
So I have Brazil. You have Brazil beating Argentina. I have Brazil beating the Netherlands. Jared has Argentina beating Portugal in the finals. Now, Jared, before we switch to American football, the real football, before we switch to that, what does it take for the U.S. to at least make the semifinals, and what would it take for them to win it all? Does it have to just be the way the ball is bouncing that day, with those days, or is it going to be that way?
It would take literally all the star players like Mbappe and Messi to get injured.
Well, so if you didn't know already, America has never made a semifinal, kind of like an African nation. So for them to at least make a semifinal and contend for at least third place in the World Cup, Berhalter has to do some magic managing, because some of these questionable roster moves were very questionable. Now, for this to happen, the chemistry has to be there. I mean, most of these guys, like, since it's such a young team, the guys who are 21 to 24 in that age range, they've been playing with each other since like I believe it was like the U19 American team. So they've been playing with each other for at least, 5 years, if not even more. So they have a lot of good chemistry. And it always comes down to if you can put out the best lineup. Some of it will come down to injuries. I think, Josh, you are correct. Hey, somebody gets injured. Sorry for them, but hey, good news for the U.S. Harry Kane somehow gets injured. Oh man,
Josh would be
Dang it.
He'd be trotting out some old veteran out there just to take out people. Be like, listen, your job is to purposely injure people.
I think that's why they brought Tim Ream, because he's a 35-year-old who's never been to World Cup and is not needed. So he's
the enforcer, like what you have in hockey.
Exactly. Now, that being said, for them to win or at least get to a semifinal, have a chance at third place or even the finals of the World Cup, Pulisic has to go off. I know it's like soccer's a team game. It's not one player. But I think for the U.S., it comes down to Pulisic, as well as as well as the players around him. But Pulisic, I think he's got to at least get 7 goals in, let's say, if we play 7 games, he's got to get at least 1 goal in each game. I also think it comes down to the defense. So U.S.'s defense, Berhalter really just prides himself on defense. He likes a really good defense. Matt Turner, I think an underdog to win the best goalkeeper of the World Cup, if we could make it that far, because of how good he is. I mean, he has 14 shutouts in 19 caps of the U.S. team. That is literally, he shut out every opponent except for 5, which is insane, by the way. So I think it will come down to defense, the midfield actually doing its part and getting the ball to the forwards instead of just turning it over. And the young guys showing their potential of why they are why this is quote unquote the most talented team US has ever had, which I believe it is. They just have to show it when we play, I think, Wales the very first game. So I think it's going to come down to Pulisic and honestly the defense that will win us, at least get us to the semifinals.
So the question is, Jared, what is an acceptable as a US supporter? What is an acceptable finish this year? Was it a finish that you'd be like, you know what, we didn't win it all, but that's okay. This is the finish we needed to boost ourselves for 2026. What is an acceptable finish for the United States this year? What do they have to do?
Getting to the round of 16, especially for Berhalter, because of how much critics are just raving about how bad some of his choices were in the roster. He has stood by his choices. So I condole him for that. Well done for him. He is very happy about the choice he made for the roster. So I think we have to make the round. We have to get out of the group stage. That is the goal. I think the goal is to at least make it to the round 16. You lose that first game. Oh, well, I mean, if we get second place, we'll probably have to play Netherlands anyway in that first game. So probably be done for, but you have to at least make it to the round of 16. If you make it to the quarterfinals for the first time since 2002, that is a shock to, I think, all U.S. soccer fans, especially with the roster we have. So I think going towards 2026 out of this World Cup, you got to finish in the round 16. You got to make it out.
Awesome. Hey, we love to see it. We all three are rooting for the United States to do well, obviously, but we're also being realistic, and that's why a lot of us didn't choose them to go to the final, because we're trying to be realistic. We're trying to understand, to look at it from a different way. So That is your World Cup 2022 preview. make sure you guys tune in. I know we'll have updates throughout as the tournament's going on. Josh and I will be giving you updates of what's happening. Jared might be back on if the U.S. goes far. Josh has already said, hey, we need to get Jared back on if the U.S. is going far. So we'll see what happens as that goes on. Yes, Jared, we get it. And so with that, we're going to shift just briefly here to finish up the show to American football. We're going to talk briefly about the Browns this week because we need to predict the old scorecard again, and then from there we're going to move into college football and we're going to talk about some power rankings and such. So, Josh, last week you gained a game. You said I had to be foolish in order for you to catch it back up, and I was foolish. I thought, hey, the Browns could compete, and yet we got destroyed. So Josh now I've kept track here. He is now 3-6. Ben is 5-4. Which means, Josh, what did you say before the show started?
I said, I don't want any of your pity either. You better not pick Cleveland to beat Buffalo. I want you to pick Buffalo with me and maintain your 2-game lead.
And I will be doing that, Josh. I believe that Buffalo is going to be way too much to handle. And I think I'm just waiting for the time when Deshaun gets there so we can actually.
Yeah, there is a little urge in me, a little tiny one that wanted to pick Cleveland just because Josh Allen has been having some issues with his elbow, and I think that's been showing up on the field a little bit. Cleveland being the better running team, heading into Buffalo where they're expecting like 4 feet of snow or something wild like that.
Blizzard
temperature Sunday, so that could take the passing game out entirely. But I mean, at the same time, Buffalo's used to playing in that weather. Being the home team, so it's not like snow's anything new to them. And I'm just gonna stick with the Buffalo.
What's gonna be your score prediction, though? What's your score prediction?
Oh, geez, I don't think it's gonna be much scoring in this one. I think you could see maybe something like a Buffalo 17, Cleveland 10 final.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Nick Chubb has a better game running the ball this week. I think he'll run for close to 100 yards, and I think Buffalo 24. I'm going to go Cleveland 13. I think Cleveland gets a touchdown early, and then they're just going to struggle, I think, getting that consistency.
I don't think that Buffalo is going to be able to build a big enough lead that Cleveland would totally abandon their running game like they did against Miami. Miami, they just Tua started shredding the secondary, and then to everyone else's surprise, Jeff Wilson's balling out. Miami's not really a running offense, but he managed to gash our weak interior D-line. We know that that's a weakness, but Miami was able to take advantage of it. And Tua, while he did have a good day, the running game did a heck of a lot of damage to us as well.
Hey, that is true. And so, Jared, since you're here, give us a Bengals prediction. Do they play this week? I don't know.
Yes, we play the Steelers.
So what is your prediction for the Bengals this week, and who's pulling out that win?
Yeah, so Bengals, if you didn't know, they're going to be in their white Bengal uniforms. So automatic win whenever we wear those.
Icy whites undefeated.
Exactly. So we stay undefeated because it is the Steelers, and I think we get retribution for that first game, which we should have annihilated them in that game anyway. Joe Burrow just was not Joe Burrow. And after seeing us versus the Panthers, granted, it is the Panthers, so can't really say a whole lot, but it is nice. This is going to be a nice retribution against the Steelers. We're also in the icy whites, white Bengal uniforms. Can't go wrong with that. Joe Burr's about to burr it up for the Steelers. And I think we dominate the Steelers almost like we dominated the Panthers because Joe Mixon is officially back. He woke up last week and absolutely went off. So.
Had you noticed, Josh, how he didn't say they dominated the Browns? Did you notice that he didn't say that?
Yeah, because he couldn't.
Because he couldn't.
Exactly. I couldn't, but couldn't. Bengals are still in second, and the Browns are still.
But we still beat the Bengals. We still beat the Bengals. We still beat the Bengals. Just saying.
There's something weird, man. Like Cleveland has Joe Burrow's number. I don't have any explanation. Yeah, the defense can't shut down any other offense in the league. But when Joe Burrow, one of the top 5 quarterbacks, comes into town, they're just like, yeah, no worries, man.
Yeah.
Maybe Garrett should show up in like that costume every week, and maybe we'll actually show up in a game. But that is enough of the NFL talk. We'll talk more about that next week. Obviously, this week was more focused on the World Cup, but we are going to talk about some college football. Josh, anything you want to add to the college football before we get into our power rankings and our Heisman watch list going into week 11 for our power rankings and watch list?
We're seeing the playoff kind of shrink a little bit. Everybody thought Oregon might have had a shot, but with their loss to Washington now, the Pac-12 title is looking kind of wide open right now.
Utah, your team, Josh.
Dude, Utah might just sneak in and win this because they play Oregon this week, and Bo Nix is supposed to be a game time decision for that game. And also last year, Utah beat Oregon twice. So while
Josh is just really happy after
Utah
his
started slow last year, they started slow again this year, and they might just find themselves in that Pac-12 championship with a chance to win it. So it'd be very Utah-like. And I mean, while I was high on Utah to start the season, I still don't think winning the Pac-12 makes them a top 5 team in the country. But I mean, the LSU spread, man, they won 13-10. They were only a 3-point favorite going to that. We were confused by it. That ended up being the case. So another W for Vegas. I'm sure they won a lot of money on that one as people picked LSU to probably cover that by a handful of scores.
We saw Alabama win.
Then another game. Yeah. Alabama, they don't lose back-to-back games.
They don't.
Even though Ole Miss had the lead, I think heading into the fourth quarter, the Ole Miss offense is actually what lost that game, which you wouldn't expect from a team coached by Lane Kiffin. And then I guess the last memorable game to talk about would be the TCU-Texas one, because Texas was a 7-point favorite in that one. Everyone thought it'd be a high-scoring game, including myself. And then TCU wins 17-10. The defense from both sides steps up. So does this mean that TCU now has a defense that should be taken seriously since they were able to limit Quinn Ewers and Bijan Robinson? That's going to be something to keep an eye on as they close this season out. They got to play Baylor, which isn't going to be no easy win either. But TCU still in the picture. It looks like the Pac-12 now, their only shot's USC, and they play UCLA this week. So Pac-12 looking out. TCU still has that shot in not Oregon, North Carolina, man. Even with the one loss still, only ranked 13th. I have a problem with that. There's 5 2-loss teams ahead of them. I guess they just don't value the teams that North Carolina has beaten. I know they don't really have any of the quality wins. Perhaps maybe the best team they've played this year, Notre Dame, beat them. But they still have that path where they can cruise into the ACC championship, beat Clemson, and be a one-loss conference champion. So still keep an eye on North Carolina. The committee doesn't seem to be taken as seriously as what they should. But, I mean, these last 2 games that they got, I think NC State and South Carolina maybe.
Yeah. But even think about it, Josh. You look at Ohio State in 2014. Remember, they were also ranked 16 or 15 in the last few weeks.
But were they 13 heading into the final 2 weeks?
I think they were. I believe they were 9 or 10. So they were still low. Maybe not this low, but they still were low, and they had to really beat some teams heavy to counteract that. Yeah. So yeah, it is interesting. And Josh, I really say that I think CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud answered. He answered your thoughts last week. He came out and laid some wood down.
I think everybody wanted to see Ohio State just own a team that they're better than, since they haven't been doing it the last several weeks. Weather wasn't a factor, so you couldn't blame it on that like you could against Northwestern. The IU defense sucks, so you couldn't use that as an excuse like you could in the Iowa game. But Ohio State's offense came to play. Defense came to play. They didn't seem to have any issue running the football, although now they have a lot of health concerns at that position.
Yeah. And we'll talk about that too. We'll talk about it too. But Josh, I will want to say a comment that was left on our last week's episode by my father. He just wanted me to read this for you on air. He says Ohio State went to gap blocking against IU, which worked. And he says run game is better than with this working. And then he said, Josh, no one can stop Ohio State's passing game. There is not a defense that can match it.
We'll see, man.
That's what my father wanted to say to you. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think he's almost right. I think we've seen the pass game stopped, but there's reasons for that. But dude, that run game too. This is an interesting stat that I heard on the Joel Klatt show. They ran downfield 27 times against IU. Only 13 times were they doing that stretch zone. And it sounds like Ryan Day likes doing that because it tires defenses out. And even if they're playing closer than what they should, or even losing like they were against Penn State, to him, it's working because you're wearing the defense out. And that could explain why they just explode in the second half and the fourth quarter all the time. But to the Buckeye fans, it's super stressful when you're, playing kind of down to your competition, it looks like. But Ryan's like, no, it's working. And then it does in the fourth.
But it also opens up that we saw in this game. It opens up when you're doing the gapped scheme where you're running in between the tackles. It opens up the play action pass. I mean, Marvin Harrison's touchdown catch, he was wide open because they ran a play action. Everyone came down. And I do want to touch on that real quick, Josh, is the injury concern, right? Everyone's been talking about that. Let me just put out how good Ohio State's team is. When you can run a wide receiver at running back, he runs a 71-yard touchdown. You've moved a linebacker to running back to be a running back. You have a true freshman who was supposed to be your fourth string coming into the year, and he is now pretty much getting most of the touches, probably this week as well. It just shows you how well Ohio State is recruited and how great of a thing. But more than that, Josh, and I want to say more than the run game, let's talk about Cameron Babb for 1 second. If you guys don't know this
glad
story,
to see that.
if you guys don't know this story, it is the most incredible story I've ever seen. And that's not just as a football fan, as someone who loves football. A guy has torn his ACL multiple times. He's been voted captain twice. He has never caught a pass in a game. He's been injured all the time, but yet he stuck it out. What have we said,
ACL
Josh?
tears, I think.
Yeah. And what have we said, Josh? We were frustrated about how many times players transfer. This guy said, no, this is my home. This is where I want to be. He fought it out. CJ Stroud comes trotting out there. All these Michigan fans are trolling him for trotting out there. It's like, no, CJ Stroud did this for his guy, for his friend, and said, I'm going to throw this touchdown pass to him. They run that play, that out. He scores it. And I mean, they had 2 delay the games right after that. And so there was a really long extra point, but it was worth it because you could see tears on every player's eyes. I was even tearing up. Like, the story is so powerful. And the fact is, all of us believers here, to hear his passion for why he does the game and why he plays the game is even that much better. And so it's awesome to see. And so that's one of the notes I want to say about the Ohio State game. But enough with stories. Let's finish up the episode by talking about our power rankings and our Heisman watch list. I'm going to start with the power rankings from last week. Myself, I had Georgia 1, 2 Ohio State. I had Michigan at 3, 4 had Tennessee, and 5. 4 I had TCU, and at 5 Tennessee. Josh had Georgia at 1, Ohio State at 2, Michigan at 3, Tennessee at 4, TCU at 5, and then our guest last week, Bryce, had Georgia at 1, Ohio State at 2, Tennessee at 3, Michigan at 4, and 5 was Alabama. Now we're going to start with our guest this week, Jared. What is your power rankings for week 12 of our power rankings here on the show?
All right, we got. I know, shock to everybody probably, but Ohio State is number 1. I don't care what anybody says. This might
That
be
is
biased.
a shock, man. You better not let Brian Grant see that.
Yeah, don't let Brian Grant see that.
Right? Listen, I don't care what anybody says. Yeah, we haven't played anybody, but guess what? Georgia, yeah, they whipped Tennessee. I think Tennessee might be slightly overrated just because. Listen. I'm just saying Georgia's good, right? Good defense, decent offense, right? Defense isn't as good as it was last year. Offense is pretty good. Stetson Bennett, absolute magic apparently on the field. But I just look at Ohio State. All right, yeah, we had some trouble games. Penn State, we always play trouble at Penn State. Okay, you look at Northwestern, wind. Ain't nobody. Georgia never has to play in 50-mile-per-hour winds. Georgia does that, they lose. Okay, I'm just saying. I am saying Georgia. Yes, they are a very good team. They are easily number 2. Or I think it's a toss-up between Ohio State and Georgia for best team in the country. Me, only because I am a Ohio State fan, probably putting Ohio State number 1. Biased. I know it's biased.
So do I have to put because I can? That's what I'm going to put on yours.
Listen, it's just I'm just looking at teams.
Are they absolute
like,
cheeks, Jared? Are they absolute cheeks?
They aren't cheeks, but Georgia's number 2, Ohio State number 1, Georgia 2. As much as I don't want to put Michigan 3, they really haven't shown any flaws except for maybe the first half Rutgers. Then they pull it away. I don't think they don't have a passing game. So you stop their passing game or you stop their running game, they're kind of done for. So Michigan's 3, TCU's 4, and I think TCU wins out and makes the college football playoffs. But
who's 5, Jared? You forgot your 5th.
Oh, yes. 5, as much as I think Tennessee's overrated, and I want to put USC number 5, I'm going to have to keep Tennessee 5 just because their only loss is to Georgia, and USC's loss a little bit worse than that. But I'll keep Tennessee at 5. But USC's a close second to 5.
All right. Josh, go ahead. Go.
I'm sticking with Georgia 1, dude. The way that I saw them shut down Tennessee's pass offense, a couple weeks ago, it's just like, man, I feel like they could do the same to Ohio State. And they're scoring enough. Even more so than last year. So I'm sticking with them undefeated as my number 1. And I got Ohio State right behind him. I would like to see Ohio State just be a little bit more consistent. I think there's been reasons for the inconsistencies, but we had some questions answered against IU. But again, it's just IU. So I'm going to keep Ohio State at 2. Michigan right behind him at 3. Like Jared said, not really many flaws with that team. you could argue like the Ohio State situation that haven't really played anybody, but they're taking care of business. We haven't really seen them in many spots where, they were trailing, other than that Rutgers first half, I think is the only time. And then 4 is the tough one, dude, because TCU, man, hasn't beaten a team by more than 10 points since
that's true.
beginning of October when it was Oklahoma. And I think that was when Dylan Gabriel got knocked out. So they've been playing all these games close, but we did learn from the Texas game that, the defense can play. And the week before, they held Texas Tech, who's one of the, I think, top passing offenses in the country. They held them in the 20s. So I feel a little bit better about TCU's defense than I do Tennessee's defense. So I think I had Tennessee at 4 last week. I'm going to jump TCU up to 4 for now and put Tennessee at 5.
Hey, I love it. For me, mine stays the exact same. Georgia at 1. I believe they're the best team overall right now in the country. Ohio State's right there. I agree with Josh said. The consistency is a little harder to watch, even as a Ohio State fan. But I think the defense has answered questions this year. And by the way, Jim Knowles is going to win Assistant of the Year. There shouldn't be any other question. What he's done to that defense, it's remarkable. 3 is Michigan. Again, I do agree with Jared. I have not seen enough of their pass game to go. What happens if the run game is stopped? We haven't seen anything happen with that. So I think Ohio State is going to be that test. If Ohio State stops the pass game, the running game, I think Ohio State wins that game. We'll talk about that next week. And then TCU at 4. I just think TCU is again, they went out, they're in. And then I have Tennessee at 5, sticking with what I had before. So that is our list for the power rankings. We're going to finish up with our Heisman list because we all love the Heisman. And I think there could be some changes. At least I know in mine, there'll be a little bit of tweaks here and there. But I'll go over last week. So last week I had CJ Stroud at 1, Drake May at 2 from North Carolina, the quarterback. I had Hendon Hooker, quarterback from Tennessee, at 3, had quarterback from TCU, Max Duggan, at 4, and I had Blake Corum, running back from Michigan, pretty much probably could play quarterback from Michigan, running back at 5. Josh had CJ Stroud at 1. He had Drake May at 2, Hendon Hooker at 3, Bo Nix at 4. Interesting to see if that stays. And he had Blake Corum at 5. And then Bryce had CJ Stroud at 1, Hendon Hooker at 2, Blake Corum at 3, Drake May at 4, and Max Duggan at 5. Jared, go ahead and start with your Heisman watch list for Week 12.
Yeah, so CJ Stroud number 1, consistent every week. Maybe you could count out that Northwestern game just because wind played a factor in that. So I think he stays number 1 for me. I would have had Drake May at 2 because of how many touchdowns he should definitely be a Heisman finalist. However, because of how good Hendon Hooker played last week, kind of making up for that Georgia loss, I think I'm going to have to bump Hendon Hooker back up to 2 because I did have him at 3 in my personal rankings. But after that week, last week, I think I'll bump him up to 2 unless something happens this week. Then Drake May will go back. But then, you got Stroud, Hooker, and then Drake May, obviously number 3. I think those easily should be the 3 finalists that make it to, New York City or whatever they go. So I think those should be the 3 finalists all from the rest of the year. The other 2 literally just don't matter. So I'll put probably Max Duggan at number 4. He's kind of driven TCU to a good undefeated season so far. And then, as much as I don't want to do this because I whatever, Blake Corum at number 5.
So Josh, the question is, Josh, are you going to do the stupid thing you tried last week and do 3 people at number 2?
No, I'm not gonna. Well, I tried, but
you changed it though. You did change it. I
convinced you. Me, and I think my list is just gonna stay the same, dude. CJ at 1, Drake May at 2, Hendon Hooker 3. Bo Nix will stay at 4, regardless of the loss. He still played great, but if he misses these last few games of the season due to an injury, obviously I'll have to account for that. But Blake Corum at 5, Max Duggan's on the outside looking in just because these last 2 games he hasn't been the greatest.
Yeah,
he's been under 200 yards against Texas Tech and Texas. Just 3 touchdowns total in those 2 games. But to his credit, he hasn't thrown any picks. So while he hasn't really done a ton to win those games, he hasn't done a ton to lose those games. So he's still in the mix there. But yeah, my 5, that's unchanged from last week.
Hey, I love the lists. We will continue these lists as they go, as you'll see them up on our Instagram at baseline.podcast. You'll see them up there. I'm even going to try to throw some graphics together for the World Cup, our predictions of who we think is going to be in the final and win. And it's a great time to talk about all these different sports. And it's also fun because as we get closer to the big game next week, we have some surprises that we're working on. I know Josh has mentioned a few things. I've mentioned a few things if you've been listening and paid attention this week. So a couple of things will be happening here that we're really excited to talk about for the game coming up. It's going to be probably one of the biggest games of our generation. I believe so, at least. And so we have some big things happening. Jared, thank you so much for jumping on with us this week. We appreciate your insight. It makes Josh look so much smarter and so much more knowledgeable about soccer. And it makes myself look less like an idiot. Well, I don't know. Maybe that's just always going to be there. But we really appreciate your knowledge, Jared. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Hey, we'll have you back for sure because you're my brother. I kind of required to. No, Jared, thank you so much. And if you've enjoyed this episode of the Baseline Podcast, go ahead and click that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell on YouTube, where you can check out all of our other videos. We have the why the playoff should be changed with Aaron and Lynn, that conversation. We have all the other episodes of different guests that we've had on over the last few weeks. And then if you've listened on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you favorite it, make sure you save it so that way you can share it with your friends and family. And please do share this. Especially if you know someone that likes soccer, share it with them. I know Jared will share it. I know Josh and I will share it, but please share it with people that you know love soccer and get their take on it. That'd be much appreciated. So once again, we hope you have a great weekend. We hope you guys have a safe time out there, spending time with friends and family. Watch the World Cup as it's starting here very shortly, and check out some of the college football, the NFL games happening, and all that is just it's a great time to be a sports fan. There's also hockey and basketball. So there's so many different sports going on. Go check them out. And until next time, we'll see ya.